Hi everyone, thanks for checking out another Eagle Eye Productions video, and today we're going to look at a car that my dad used to own. It's Peugeot, that's how you pronounce it in Dutch. It's a French car maker, it's a volume car maker. Lots of people in Europe drive Peugeots because they're quite affordable, and they're not as expensive as, for instance, the German car maker, the brands that they make. Reliability is sometimes an issue. Diesels are quite reliable, but very old-fashioned 2-liter 4-cylinders are among the most reliable engines when it comes from Peugeot when you want to drive petrol. But we're going to look at their top flight model that they had. It was not a success outside of France, but my dad used to drive one because also the German counterparts, the 5 Series and the A6 or an E-Class, they were too expensive. And here at least you got value for your money. My dad had the 2.2 16 valve and it looked like this one actually. So that's nice to begin with. That's exactly how it looked. Black with chrome, same kind of rims. It's a 2005. Let me think. Yeah, I think my dad had one from 2006, and the previous model of this one was the 605, but we keep that for another video. But this is exactly the way he had it. Beautiful, stylish car, even 20 years down the line. They're very affordable nowadays. I mean, they're also quite luxurious with lots of options in it. The 2.2 and the 2-liter 4-cylinders are quite reliable. And this car looks in absolute mint condition. This didn't even drive 50,000 kilometers according to this advert, which I'm not sure about, but it does look in pristine condition. Maybe it did had a good cleaning, but it's a total different approach to a luxury car than the Germans, for instance. And trust me, these cars are quite reliable and affordable. Electrical issues are a thing. My dad had the exact same spec when it comes to this leather package and this wood trim here. It makes for quite a nice ambiance. Yeah, exactly the same. I think this is a 5 or a 6 speed. I think it's a 6 speed. This is a 2005 model, so this is 20 years old right now. And you can see this car is in absolute mint condition. And you don't see them on these roads here in the Netherlands, at least not as often. Even in France you do barely see them anymore. It's really a forgotten car from the mid 2000s. I think they came onto the market somewhere in 2001, this model, and the previous model, the 605, we will cover in another time. But that one is really, you know, this equivalent car, but then from the 90s. And this is barely did any kilometers. It shows 4 or 5, maybe 6. I don't know if reverse is, I don't remember that actually. This has memory seats. I think it's full option actually. Yes, okay, so you see there's still quite some space left here, but this is a very reliable engine. The technique behind it is already quite old. I think it's somewhere from the 90s and it's just a continuation of that engine. Also don't think horsepower wise it's anything special here. It doesn't have almost has 160 horsepower from a 4-cylinder, which is that's okay, that's good. 2.2 liters and close to 1500 kilos, so it's not a car that is very light, but it's also not extremely heavy. It has a 5-speed. 12k is, it's a lot of money, but to be honest, it's really a top spec model and it is pristine looking. It really looks good still for its age. So that's exactly almost, I think, one-on-one the exact same trim that my dad used to have. It's nice to see this, and we don't see these cars anymore. Also, when they were introduced in the early 2000s, not a lot of people bought them, because for this amount of money, if you go for a well-spec'd, you could have an entry-level, maybe C-Class. C-Class, maybe you could stretch it up to a V6, but for the rest, it wouldn't have nothing. It was really, And a C-Class is not really what you want to drive if you drive long distances, if that makes any sense. This is maybe even more comfortable, but it's not the same quality. And this car was riddled with electrical issues, but engine-wise, again, if you go for the 2 liter, 2.5 or 2.2 liter, there's no problem. They also had this HDI diesel engine, which was also quite reliable. Because French car makers are very good with making diesels, because I think 90% of the country drives diesel there. That might change in the next couple of years. But this is exactly how the car looked. The rims, everything was the same, the spec from the inside. Nice to see. So this one is 4 years younger. So this is the facelifted model, and this is how it actually came onto the market in the early 2000s. This is 2001. So it's an earlier model. Yeah, this looks... My dad had one like this as well, but then in blue. He liked it that much that after a couple of years he ordered a new one just before they wouldn't sell it anymore. Because Peugeot and Citroën, like the PSA, basically they don't make this kind of cars no more. I think like mid-level D segment is the highest that they go. They're not going after the Germans no more, because everybody that has that amount of money he goes for a German car, not a French car. Right or wrong. Not a lot of kilometers. Yeah, a little bit more than 7k. This is like what I said, this is just how it came onto the market, and this one is the facelifted model. It looked better. This is also, I think, the facelift, and this is the 3 liter 24 valve V6 executive. This was, I think, that was the highest spec that you could get, the 6-cylinder. Let's check power output first. Where is it? 207 horsepower from a 3 liter 6-cylinder. No turbos, naturally aspirated. Still a beautiful car, definitely. I think yeah, still to this day I think it's a good looking car, definitely. It's just something different, you know, than what you're used to with an A6 or an E-Class or 5 Series. It's just a different approach. No, the classic dials. Yeah, I basically grew up on the back seat of this car, actually. This has the automatic. Yeah, this is like fully spec'd the way you want it. Back then they still smoked. Heated seats, ashtray. Quite a big boot space. I remember these standing behind E-Classes being taxis here in the Netherlands as well. Of course the diesel versions, but most cab drivers would pick a Mercedes diesel over these, but this is probably cheaper each month if you have to lease cars for that type of purpose. But don't underestimate the diesels. Maybe we still find a few. Let's see, this is all petrol. This is a diesel, also 2.2 diesel. Almost did 250k in kilometers, and you pick this up for just under 4k. That's not too much. Let's just check it out. 2002, so also early. Let's see. Small pictures. Let's go. Oh. Yeah, say what you want, but I think the outside, the exterior aged quite well, the interior didn't. This is still late 90s, you know, when it comes to the interior of the car, but that's alright. I mean, it's not an Italian car, it's also not a German car. This appealed more to the executives and board members actually for that time, especially in France. And you barely saw them around in the Netherlands, but it was just from a cost perspective, value for money, this was better than a German car back then. And if it's a car that's a company car, if anything goes wrong, you go to the to a service point and have it serviced, and you send the bill to your company, so you don't really care that much. But actually, again, also the 2.2 liter diesels are also very reliable. Let's see if we find anything special. Executive is kind of the same, 300,000. This is also a diesel. This is a 2.7 HDIF. Also, this looks nice, doesn't it? Nowadays, diesels here in Europe are, we want to get rid of them, or at least the government wants to get rid of them. But think about it, if you buy this car, 300,000 kilometers on it, yes, it's quite a lot. But if you need to drive a lot through Europe for the next 2 years, and you don't want a car that depreciates too much, because I think it already depreciated to the point that it cannot go any further, you will like this car. You will really do. There's nothing wrong with it. And look where you're sitting. It's a beautiful place to be. But again, these kind of things, if you use it for maybe another 2 years, then you could try it, right? You could also buy an old Mercedes diesel, definitely, but I don't know what's going to be cheaper in the long run. And if you just want a comfortable car that you can cruise around Europe, and just for a short amount of time, couple of months that you need to do lots of miles, I would give this a go, I think. This is where you can insert your SIM card. It had a second SIM card slot. It didn't really have Bluetooth yet, I believe. This is just before that. That's how old it is. But you could put your second SIM card in here, dial the number, call, end the call. You could press this button if you had something was wrong with the car or anything. You could call the service desk, and they would get you through GPS your exact coordinates, and they would send somebody over. I'm not sure if this was a subscription, if you had to have a subscription for this, but I think this came standard with the car because you went for the top spec model. But call me out on this if I'm not right about this. Never saw this before. So this is a sport setting for the suspension. This is to turn off the parking sounds. This is probably to heat the rear window, and this is I'm not sure about. I don't know. Look at this. I mean, it's different. Here's the cruise control. 204 horses from a diesel. 2009. So this is a late model. Yes. And it done quite a lot of kilometers. Well, for a diesel, it's doable. But let's say, for instance, you need to drive another 100,000 kilometers the next year or the next 1.5 years. For this amount of money, you cannot do any better. It already depreciated quite far. So that's all I'm saying. Let's pick out one more. This is also a diesel. There's still quite a few diesels out there, which makes sense. This is a car that you drive through Europe, for instance. Let's go for early model, just a 2-liter 4-cylinder 16 valve for 2K, and this done 250,000 kilometers. Just under 2K, you buy yourself this car. And again, it only has 136 horses, but it is a very reliable engine, long track record. Yeah, I mean, 2K. That's not even 2,000 pounds, and it's maybe a little bit more than $2,000. If you would calculate in those kind of currencies, but you got something special. And maybe you drive it for half a year to a year, and then some major thing pops up, and you just you sell it for whatever it's worth. Then probably nothing. But you all have to take that into consideration when you buy such a car. At least you're driving something that you don't see in the road no more. And I can tell you from experience, these cars are quite not fun to drive, but they're very relaxing. They're comfortable, and they are made for long journeys. You will definitely not be the fastest on the autobahn, but you know, you can cruise 140 to 160 kilometers an hour effortless, and that's actually fast enough. This car has been doing quite a lot of kilometers. I think 400,000 or something. Let me check real quick. 330. So it is possible with the 2.2 4-cylinder. They are able to reach that kind of kilometers. That says enough. But this car is really cheap, not even 1,000. Yeah. Overall, it still look okay. This is more of an entry-level version, I suppose, a PAC, but it's a 16 valve. As I remember driving those when I just had my driver license, and I really enjoyed it. It was a nice car to drive. And you can look at the seats and the way it's put together, and even after all these miles, I think it still looks quite okay. You see it's been used, but that's logical. But overall, nice car. I wanted to do something different today, you know, not the German 3 all the time, and I also want to show you some special cars from Europe that you might not know about in the United States, for instance. Thanks for watching this video. Enjoy your weekend, and we see you in the next video.